Horses at age 2, horses after school, horses in the summers, horses for a career. You can't stay much closer to horses than being on their backs, so Connie Doll became a jockey. 2015 marks her 40th year as a licensed rider. Connie Doll is very likable. Ask just about anyone who knows her. Horses and humans around the Northwest are happy that she's brought that likability to thoroughbred racing. Doll grew up on the family farm in Ravensdale, South King County, and was around all sorts of animals. Horses were her favorite. The family was into them. Father Kelly was a trainer and horse shoer. Many times during her childhood, the Roy Rodeo was a weekend family getaway. Doll was determined to get aboard and bond with her horses. She was industrious, to say the least.
From the time I was 2 on up, my mom and dad couldn't keep me off the horses. I'd stack stuff and get on them.
Before she turned 10, she had experience in quarter-horse match races with cousins Kenny and Terry Doll, as well as her father.
We're match racing these horses out of the gate, and of course I weighed like probably 65 pounds in, so mine are going to win. You know, my dad weighed 145.
Eventually, she rode small meets in Port Angeles, Port Townsend, Silverdale, and she always did well. Like any jockey, at the bigger tracks, she needed horsemen to give her a chance. Trainer John Crawford did just that.
I was sitting in the room, I just started out. I think it's like, I was riding, from 1976 to 1979, not riding very many. I was begging and, probably riding the worst bronky things. If they didn't buck coming out of the gate, you were lucky. And so I'm sitting there at the end of the day at Dayton, Washington, and this guy comes up to me. It's like the feature race, quarter horse, 220-yard dash. And he says, "Hey, little girl, would you ride my horse? There's nobody else to ride it." And I said, "Sure." So I get my stack of lead together, and we get on this horse, and I end up setting a track record and winning on him. And I think I won 12 stakes and handicaps on that quarter horse throughout my career until he retired. A horse called Two Shoes, and Larry Justice owned it, and his brother Don also had quarter horses, so I started riding for him, and I won probably, 20 races for him too. Wade Schuler, he was an old trainer, and he had just horses that he was just scrapping along, just not worth much, but we'd get a win every now and then. And then he got lucky enough to have a quarter horse named a Living Doll, and we went on and won a bunch of races on her. Lee Hendricks was kind of like Wade. He had horses that were just kind of cheap claimers, but he always rode me, and we'd sneak in a long shot here and there. Earl and Barbara Bays, they were like kind of second parents to me. Barbara, she always kind of had a gruff way. She got right to the point, but I was her little angel, and she'd put me on. She had a horse named Gayette, who every rider had won on, and I won her last race, and she retired after I won on her at Yakima. Bob and Melinda Dean probably gave me my biggest foot in the door on thoroughbreds, because they had nice horses, and they rode me on horses that could really run. Lou and Bold Satan, Cricketer.
Middle of the racetrack, Cricketeer. Driving in third is Dot's Man. Then on the outside, Astonish Me. They're coming through the stretch. Cricketeer now in the middle of the racetrack takes the lead. McGreevy is in second. On the inside comes Spirited Exit, but it's Cricketeer on top.
Bobby Dean was a patient teacher with Doll.
No matter what, just if you made a mistake, they'd sit down and say, "Hey, Bobby, he was smart. He was a smart guy. He'd been around a lot." And he'd say, "Hey, okay, sit me down and say, this is what you're going to do next time." And he wouldn't take you off. Like now, they just take you off. Just like throw somebody else on. He would just he's going to teach me. And just, they did a lot for my career.
It wasn't just thoroughbreds and quarter horses. Her first ever distance race was one of her biggest wins of the 70s, aboard the Arabian El Camino Samira. One trainer was somewhat confused as to which jockey he was riding.
Oh yeah, it was a horse called The Spirit. And I go in the paddock, and the guy goes, you're not Connie Doll." And I go, "No, I'm his cousin Connie Doll." And he goes, "Oh, well, the name's got to be just as good." And I end up winning on this horse by probably 3/4 of a length or a length.
Another story she fondly remembers is centered around Z Chalupa, owned by Pat Stitzel.
Z Chalupa was kind of a special little horse, and his owner was paralyzed from the waist down. He ponied, he trained, and he was just I rode for his dad. I'd won like maybe 4 or 5 races on Z Chalupa, and Pat passed away, and so they had memorial races. They said, hey, you got to ride Z Chalupa. They took him out of retirement to run him in this race. And he says, you got to win this for Pat. It's a memorial race. And so I think we get in the gate, and I'm talking to Z Chalupa. I said, you got to win this for your daddy. You know, you do what you can. I want to beat you. So we get in the race, and I think it's 1.5 lap, the race. I can't remember. It was 6 furlongs or 5 furlongs. But at the Walla Walla, it's like you go 1.5 laps or almost 2 laps. So I'm like way behind. Like I'm probably 20 lengths behind on the first lap. And when I get to the backside, and I kind of leaned up to him and I said, Chalupa, if you want to win this for your daddy, you better get going. And this horse just shifted gears. And it was like a dream, zinging through, and I just gave him his head. He's zinging through him, and I ended up winning it by, I think, 2 lengths.
With 4+ decades of riding and racing, there's countless highlights. Winning a race for her Yakima Valley College psychology professor, who joked she could earn an additional 10 points on her next test. Winning without silks at Okanagan. Beating Wayne Newton's horse in Nevada. Leading rider titles all over the Northwest. Getting the Miss Congeniality Award at Sundowns. Doll easily transfers her spirit to all living things, despite what some might think is a handicap.
I was born with a birth defect, so I never knew what it was like to see with 2 eyes. That's why it was so easy for me to be aware of everything around. It wasn't like I had to relearn everything. I was born that way, and that's the way I grew up. And so that really hindered me, because people would look at me and went, person with 1 eye. And then once I started doing good, then it was no problem at all.
Every veteran jockey's had that go-to horse, one he or she really clicked with. In the late 80s in Yakima, it was a gelding trained by Donnie Smith.
I started riding a horse called Best Catch for him, and I went on in 1 year to win 5 or 6 races on that horse, and they were all in the 5-hole or the 2-hole, every one of them at Yakima Meadows.
Connie Doll was kind of like the queen of the bush tracks, and when she came to places like Long Acres or Yakima, that's the big time to her. And I had her on a horse in Yakima quite a number of years ago, and she was just unbeatable on this horse. She won 4 in a row on him, and it's just one of those horses that she clicked with, and his name was Best Catch, and she had his number, and she just couldn't do anything wrong at Yakima Meadows, I know that.
The well-known Queen of the Bushes has been at Emerald Downs as an exercise rider and jockey since the track's first season. Clell Sherwood, superintendent of Emerald Downs Jockey's Room, often thinks of Doll when there's a need on race day.
I can't say enough good about her. You could call her anytime and tell her you need something, and she'll be there and as soon as she can.
Doll says the camaraderie at Emerald Downs couldn't be better.
This Jock's Room is amazing. The way the girls get along and take care of each other is amazing. I've never been to a track like this one where the women we all get along in there, we work together, it's like, you got your back, Clellie's pulled a few of us apart at Yakima.
Lindy Alamant was a legendary clerk of scales at Long Acres and Emerald Downs. Several years back, he knew what to do when needing a rider.
I would sit in the room, I called myself the vulture. If somebody took off, man, I'd pick them up. And I picked up a lot of nice horses that way, right? Probably better than I'd ride after galloping in the morning. So one day I didn't show up here, and I get this phone call. I'm laying out on the deck in my Daisy Dukes and my bathing suit top, and it's Lindy Alamant, he was the clerk of scales. He says, Connie, where are you at? And I said, I'm at home on my deck. And he goes, get down here, I got a 4-to-1 shot for you. So he says, how fast can you get here? I said, half hour. He says, okay. It's coming up in I can't remember what race, it was a later race. And so I come down and I got on the horse, going a mile, and I ended up going on and winning the race. I can't remember if it was a real close finish or not, but I ended up winning the race, and it was my first win here.
Winning Wager still being nursed along in front by Connie Doll Carriere. He's slightly shady, won't give up the Ghost in second. From the back, Tucky Bound is emerging now, about 6 behind. In the lead, Winning Wager. He's slightly shady in second. Tucky Bound tearing home late, but it is Winning Wager in front. Inside the final 16th, Tucky Bound trying to make up that ground, but Winning Wager clear. Tucky Bound deep on the track is flying, but won't get there. Winning Wager first.
Doll's mother, Evelyn, is very proud of her daughter and never misses a live race. With so many years in the game, Doll's experience earns her results.
I think she just doesn't bother a horse much, just lets him run. And she's not, she's not trying to do anything fancy out there. She just lets him run. Cheryl Harris and she trained horses, my ex-wife, and Connie rode a lot for us. So they wouldn't be running no good, and we put Connie on them and they jump up and win. I don't know how they did that, but they did.
She keeps the horses straight, and her concern is the horses also, not just the paycheck. She doesn't stand up 2 strides before the wire like you'll see some of them do, and if you're in a duel at the wire, you want her on your horse.
She gives them all a shot, tries to put them in the race, tries to get them where they need to be to win, and tries her hardest.
Doll is ever present during morning training. She's there to assist trainers, help teach young horses, maybe earn a few bucks, and secure mounts for race day. Whitaker gets on as many horses in the mornings as anybody and loves to see Doll out there.
Oh yeah, she's really good. We always say the ones that you never see. Like, you see everybody just say good morning and stuff like that, but the ones that are never in your face all the time, those are the good ones, because they're always just kind of doing their own thing and taking care of their horse, and she's one of those.
She's here every day, very dependable, worked for a lot of different trainers, gets along with most of the horses real good, and she's a good hand on a horse in the morning. She can teach them something. Young horses she's real good with. I mean, when I was training horses, I had her come down and get on my young horses and work them for me and get them started off in the right direction, and she was really good at that.
Doll was the leading quarter horse rider at Emerald Downs in 2011. She set a track record aboard Destiny's Roar.
Destiny's Roar down the outside. CR, I'll be back just in front, tackled by Destiny's Roar, and Destiny's Roar has gone on by, gets ahead in front of Eyes Move, and it kicks back to second, but Destiny's Roar wins a length.
Hobbies outside of racing? Plenty, including singing, working on cars, sewing, art, and more recently football, namely the Seahawks. Through her cousin last summer, Doll lined up Emerald Downs admission and more for several Seahawk players.
I took them around when I was done riding, and I happened to accidentally win a long shot, and a couple of them made like $300, $400, $500, $600 on me, and they think I'm like the rock star. And so then I took them on a tour and let them meet Robert Geller and everybody. You met them, and tour the paddock, the jocks room, the photo finish, and all that. And since then, now they just periodically call me like Mama Lynch.
She has a legacy of hard work, dependability, and optimism wherever she's been.
She's just a good person. Do anything for anybody. I can't say enough good about her.
Connie's just a good person. I mean, she's a good soul. She's almost always happy.
The positives always outweigh the negatives in Doll's outlook on life.
I can't go back to one specific bad memory of a horse or a person that would ever turn me away from this business. I got to meet tons of super sweet, nice people and ride awesome horses. And even if they were like really slow, but they win a race every now and then, they were awesome. And what a better career to do something every day outside and on an animal you enjoy so much.
Here's to a significant part of Washington and Northwest racing. Happy 40th anniversary to Connie Doll.